So if this film came before episode 4, does that technically mean it's part of the whole prequels being worse than everything else thing? Because we might have to start reassessing what defines that soon. So we have a new Star Wars movie, and boy are they beginning to milk the Star Wars cash cow. But is this a good thing? Are we gonna want more of these in the future? There's only one way to find out. Let's get into it. So Solo, a Star Wars story, is, you guessed it, the story of young Han Solo, and how he came to be the character that we know and love from the original trilogy, how he met Chewbacca, how he met Lando, ultimately how he became the captain of the Millennium Falcon. Now, it's not necessarily a story we wanted, but it is a story that we got, and it is risky business considering that it's not Harrison Ford in the title role, being that iconic character that we already know. Now, I have to admit, I wasn't sure about this film to begin with, because it did feel a little bit like a shameless tapping into nostalgia and fan service for the sake of exactly that, and getting to see a character that we already know back on the screen again. It's a safe character. Han Solo is Han Solo. He's one of the greatest characters from Star Wars there has ever been. Everybody loves Han Solo. But after seeing the film, I have to say I am a little more turned around on the idea. I did actually enjoy Solo, a Star Wars story. Now, in a lot of places, it does very much have that Star Wars vibe that you are paying your ticket money to go and see. And after a while, I did even end up coming round to the idea of Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. He wasn't my initial ideal choice for someone to play a younger Han Solo, but the longer that I watched this film, the more I noticed things that I would immediately recognize as being typically Han Solo, and he did actually do this really well. This is very much a younger Han Solo. He has different needs, he has different ideals. No one is the same person they are when they're 20 as when they are 30, so they are going to be slightly different versions of this same character. And yeah, sure, there is going to be a lot of fan service in this film. There is going to be a lot of nostalgia in this film. There is going to be a whole lot of momentous occasions from the history of Han Solo as a character that you are going to see in this film, but that's kind of why the film got made. And yeah, you know you're going to see these things in there, but that's also why you want to see it. Now, Donald Glover, on the other hand, was the embodiment of Lando Calrissian. I don't care what anyone says. Donald Glover was the shining moment in this film. And the other mention that I have to give out is Paul Bettany as the bad guy in this film, Dryden Voss. You don't see a whole lot of him in this film, but the bits that you do see, I enjoyed seeing a bad guy who is just a criminal in the Star Wars universe. He isn't part of the Empire, he isn't Force sensitive, he doesn't have some bigger agenda. He is essentially in it for himself. He is a mean bad guy who controls a lot of people and is essentially a ruthless business person. That's not something that you see a whole lot of in Star Wars. It's a different take on a bad guy, and that was something refreshing to see. Now, I do have to say there's not too much to say in the way of spoilers for Solo, a Star Wars story. There are a few moments that obviously you do expect to see in this film, such as Han meeting Chewie, Han meeting Lando, Han piloting the Millennium Falcon. The way the Millennium Falcon looks in this film is obviously different to the way we first see it in the original trilogy, and you wonder how that happens, and you do see that happen. Now, there is one moment towards the end of the film that does contain a huge spoiler, but I won't really go into that, and it's not worth doing a whole video on just for that spoiler talk. However, the implications of who is involved in that spoiler can be quite huge, and it might be worth doing a whole video on the implications of this and the timeline of future Star Wars films. You might get a whole Star Wars theory video, who knows? So overall, I have to say Solo: A Star Wars Story was enjoyable. It was full of fan service, but that's essentially what you're paying to see anyway. It wasn't mind-blowing. I think that if Ron Howard had directed this film right from the very start, it might have had a more solid directing feel to it rather than him taking over from Lord and Miller. But it is definitely a new addition to the Star Wars franchise, and it's not the least enjoyable one by a long shot. So with that in mind, Solo: A Star Wars Story gets 3.5 stars from me. Yes, it's enjoyable. I enjoyed seeing Chewbacca again. I enjoyed seeing the Millennium Falcon and its origins. And it was a good time. You don't have to think about it too much. You don't need to overanalyze every single Star Wars film. Yes, okay, it is milking it a little bit to do a whole backstory for Han Solo, and the likelihood is that they might do more of these ones as well. But at the moment, I just enjoyed it. I just sat back, watched it, and I had some more Han Solo. And who can argue with having more Han Solo? So Solo: A Star Wars Story, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Are you ready for more Han Solo movies? What can we really expect from more of these if there is going to be a trilogy? And what other spin-offs would you like to see? All comments are welcome in the comment section below. Let's talk nerdy. As always, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here and you want to see more in the future, you can click right here to get some more funky fresh videos from yours truly. And until that point, never tell me the odds.